B2B digital marketing, email strategies that win. Email is still the pipeline engine in B2B. Email isn't flashy, but it's still the most reliable workhorse in B2B digital marketing. While teams chase new channels, inboxes keep producing the highest volume conversations across outbound, nurture, and expansion. When we see email isn't working, it's almost never because the channel is dead, it's because the system behind it is inconsistent. The economics are hard to argue with. Email marketing routinely generates about $36 to $42 in revenue for every $1 invested. That's why it remains a cornerstone for any cold email agency, SDR agency, or B2B sales agency trying to build predictable pipeline without betting everything on ads. Buyer behavior backs it up, too. Roughly 73 to 80% of B2B buyers say they prefer vendors reach out via email because it's asynchronous, easy to forward internally, and simple to revisit later. The practical takeaway is straightforward. If your outbound isn't earning replies, the fix is almost always targeting, deliverability, messaging, and follow-up discipline, not switching channels. Know your benchmarks so you measure the right wins. Most teams over-index on opens because they're easy to see, but opens don't book meetings. In modern inboxes, your North Star should be reply rate, positive reply rate, and meetings booked, especially if you're running sales outsourcing or an outsourced sales team where activity is high and noise is everywhere. Use realistic baselines to diagnose where the system is breaking. For example, recent aggregates put average B2B open rates around 36.7% and click-through rates around 3.2 to 5.1%, while typical cold email reply rates land around 4.1 to 5.8%. At the same time, click-to-open rates have dipped to roughly 6.4%, which is a reminder that clicks are harder to earn than they used to be. When you compare your last 90 days against these ranges, you'll usually see one of three stories: deliverability issues, low opens; weak relevance, opens but no replies; or a soft offer, replies that don't convert to meetings. Once you identify the bottleneck, you can fix the right lever instead of rewriting subject lines forever. Start with ICP clarity and list quality, not clever copy. The most common outbound mistake is spraying a generic template to a massive list. It hurts reply rates, damages domain health, and burns good accounts by training real buyers to ignore you. The fastest fix is to tighten your ICP and segment by role, industry, and trigger event before you ever debate wording. We recommend mapping 3 to 6 core segments, for example, VP sales at SaaS companies after a funding round versus director of ops at multi-site manufacturers, and building one specific value proposition and CTA per segment. This is where strong B2B list building services pay off. Better fit means fewer bounces, fewer unsubscribes, and more "this is relevant" replies that actually turn into meetings. Keep campaign sizes intentionally small at first. Think 50 to 200 highly relevant contacts per sequence, so you can learn without sacrificing reputation. Once you have segment-level winners, scaling becomes a volume problem. Before that, scaling is just scaling failure. If you need help operationalizing this, this is also where a sales development agency or outbound sales agency can add immediate structure. Build deliverability and sequence infrastructure like a system. Deliverability is the invisible gatekeeper. If your domains and inboxes aren't healthy, your perfect email never reaches a human. At a minimum, your stack should include correct SPF, DKIM, DMARC configuration, gradual warm-up for new sending assets, and volume throttling so you don't spike complaints or trigger filters. This is unglamorous work, but it's where most underperforming programs quietly die. The next mistake we see is obsessing over design instead of clarity. In cold outreach, heavy HTML often reads like marketing fluff, gets clipped, or lands in the wrong tab. So for SDR-driven outbound, plain text or very light formatting wins because it looks like a real email. Combine that with short paragraphs, one clear ask, and copy that can be read in under a minute. Finally, treat sequences as repeatable infrastructure rather than one-off blasts. Standardize a net new outbound sequence, a re-engagement sequence, and a hand raiser/post-event sequence. Then document timing and intent per step so your team isn't improvising. When email is coordinated with cold calling services, LinkedIn touches, and clean CRM status updates, you get a true system instead of random activity. If email feels inconsistent, it's because you're treating a system like a one-off message. Write cold emails that earn replies, and use follow-up to win. Cold email success is mostly about relevance and restraint. Your first touch should be short, specific, and easy to respond to. One personalized opener, one clear problem/outcome, and one CTA. With click behavior declining, you're usually better off asking a simple question than trying to force a click, especially when CTOR hovers around 6.4%. Follow-up is where most of the meetings are hiding. Roughly 80% of sales require 5 or more follow-ups, yet most reps stop after 2 or 3. So disciplined sequences create immediate advantage even before you get fancy with personalization. We typically see the best programs vary angles across touches, ROI, risk, speed, competitive pressure, while keeping the ask consistent and frictionless. Email performs even better when it's paired with B2B cold calling services, because calls turn silent opens into real conversations, and emails make calls feel familiar instead of intrusive. This is why many teams choose a blended model, an SDR agency or cold calling agency that runs coordinated touches, so prospects experience a coherent outreach motion rather than scattered pings across channels. Use personalization and AI to scale relevance without getting creepy. Personalization is no longer, "Hi, first, spot templates instantly," and generic outreach underperforms even with strong deliverability. Done well, personalization is a measurable lever. McKinsey notes companies that execute personalization effectively can see 5 to 15% revenue lift and 10 to 30% higher marketing efficiency, which is exactly what B2B teams need in long sales cycles. The scalable approach is structured personalization. Start with a segment-specific base template, then add 1 or 2 custom lines tied to role, trigger events, or recent company movement. AI helps here when it's used to research and draft, not to fabricate. Your personalization should be specific enough to prove relevance, but neutral enough to avoid sounding like surveillance. At SalesHive, we use our eMod engine to transform strong base templates into personalized outbound at scale, while keeping the message consistent with the segment's value prop and CTA. This prevents the customization tax that slows teams down when they try to write every email from scratch, and it helps an outsourced sales team stay both productive and credible. Avoid the predictable failures, deliverability, misalignment, and set and forget. Underinvesting in deliverability is the quietest way to fail. Wrong DNS settings, aggressive volume ramps, or inconsistent sending patterns can push your outreach into spam even if your copy is solid. Protect your primary brand domain, use dedicated sending assets when scaling, and monitor bounce and complaint signals like a hawk. If your opens suddenly drop across segments, assume a deliverability issue first, not a messaging issue. Another common failure is misalignment across your digital motion. If your ads say one thing, your SDR email says another, and your website says a third, prospects stall because they don't understand what you actually do. Align your offer, proof, and CTA across your outbound sales agency motion, nurture streams, and site experience so every touch reinforces the same story. Finally, sequences aren't set and forget. Markets shift, Competitors copy you, and what worked 18 months ago can quietly stop working while activity stays high. Review performance monthly, rewrite weak steps, and feed call outcomes from your cold callers back into your email playbook so the program compounds instead of decaying. Operationalize the program with KPIs, tooling, and a monthly email lab. Email only becomes predictable when you can measure it end to end. Track deliverability indicators, bounces, spam signals, engagement, opens, replies, and outcomes, meetings booked, pipeline created, revenue influenced. Then report by segment and sequence, not just by sender. That's how you learn what message works for which persona, instead of averaging everything into one misleading number. Your stack matters because email is a coordination problem. Ensure your CRM, email platform, and sales engagement tool sync cleanly on lead status, last touch, sequence enrollment, and meeting outcomes, so you avoid duplicate outreach and can attribute pipeline accurately. It's not surprising that 68% of B2B marketers use email marketing software, and 80% plus rely heavily on email newsletters. Email is central enough that sloppy integrations create real revenue leakage. One habit we like is a monthly email lab with marketing and SDRs. Review the best performing emails, identify where prospects are dropping off, and commit to 1 or 2 A/B tests for the next month. Test subject lines and first lines, but also test offers and CTAs, because a better next step often beats a better sentence. Over time, this turns email into a repeatable engine rather than a lottery ticket. Turn email into a coordinated outbound and nurture motion. If you want immediate traction, start with a 90-day audit of your open, click, reply, and meeting booked rates. Then compare them to realistic B2B ranges. If you're below the baseline on opens, fix deliverability first. If opens are fine, but replies are low, tighten targeting and rewrite your offer. If replies are healthy, but meetings are low, your CTA and qualification process need work. This keeps the team focused on the true constraint, not the loudest opinion. From there, build a small set of standardized sequences, net new, re-engagement, and hand raiser, and run them consistently across your segments. When you pair those sequences with B2B cold calling and a clear handoff process, you get a practical version of multi-touch that actually fits how buying committees behave. The goal is not more activity, it's more qualified conversations per account. If you'd rather not assemble this internally, SalesHive exists to run the full outbound system: ICP-based list building, deliverability setup, cold email copy, and multi-step sequencing, supported by US-based and Philippines-based SDR teams. We've booked 100,000 plus meetings for 1,500 plus clients by treating email as a coordinated system and tying it directly to meetings on the calendar. Whether you're evaluating sales outsourcing, an outsourced sales team, or a hybrid approach, the standard is the same: consistent targeting, consistent execution, and consistent measurement.